Meet Daniel. At 22, he found himself standing in a foreign country, excited but terrified. He had just landed his first job at a tech company in New York, a dream come true for any young professional. But there was one major challenge that overshadowed his excitement. He barely spoke English. His first day at work was like walking into a storm. He could understand bits and pieces of what people were saying around him, but when it came time to respond, he froze. His colleagues would chat and laugh during lunch, but Daniel could only sit there silently, nodding along, trying to piece together what they were talking about. Every interaction felt overwhelming, and for a while, Daniel wondered if he would ever feel like he truly belonged. But even though he felt out of place, Daniel made a promise to himself. He would master English, no matter what it took. He knew that if he didn't face this challenge head-on, his dream of working in New York would crumble. And so, his journey to fluency began. Daniel's journey began with a crucial step that often gets overlooked: setting a clear goal. Many language learners make the mistake of starting without a specific target in mind. They think, "I want to learn English," but this vague statement lacks the direction needed to keep you on track. Daniel knew that simply wanting to learn English wasn't enough. He needed a goal that was clear, achievable, and motivating. He reflected on what fluency in English really meant to him and set a specific target. In 6 months, I want to be able to hold a full conversation with my coworkers without feeling nervous. This goal did two important things for Daniel. It gave him a purpose for why he was learning English and a time frame to work within. Whenever he felt discouraged or overwhelmed, he could come back to this goal and remind himself why he started. Having a specific deadline also added a sense of urgency, motivating him to practice even on days when he didn't feel like it. For anyone looking to improve their English, this is where your journey should start. Ask yourself, what do you want to achieve? Whether it's improving your English for a job interview, for travel, or to build connections with people around the world, having a concrete goal will guide your learning process. Write it down and put it somewhere you can see it daily. This will serve as a constant reminder and help keep you focused, especially when progress feels slow. Remember, the more precise your goal is, the easier it will be to measure your progress. It's also important to recognize that goals should be realistic and measurable. Instead of aiming to become fluent in 6 months, which can feel daunting, break it down into smaller, achievable steps. For example, you could start with, "I want to be able to introduce myself and describe my job by the end of the first month." These smaller milestones will give you a sense of accomplishment along the way, keeping your motivation high. Daily practice. The game changer. Once Daniel had his goal, the next step was to figure out how to achieve it. He quickly realized that learning English was not something that would happen overnight. It required consistent effort, day in and day out. Daniel knew that setting aside hours every day wasn't practical with his busy work schedule, so he decided to start small. He made a commitment to 20 minutes of focused English practice every morning. No excuses. What made this routine so effective was its simplicity. Daniel didn't overwhelm himself with hours of study or unrealistic goals. Instead, he focused on manageable chunks of time that he could easily fit into his daily life. During his morning commute, he listened to podcasts in English, paying attention to how native speakers pronounced words and phrases. On his lunch break, he read a few pages of a simple English book. At night, he watched English TV shows with subtitles, learning new vocabulary and phrases along the way. This consistent practice was a game changer for Daniel. By dedicating time to English every day, he built a habit. The more he exposed himself to the language, the more comfortable it became. Small, daily efforts accumulated over time, leading to significant improvement in his comprehension and speaking abilities. One thing Daniel learned is that it's not about how much you practice in one day, but how often you practice that makes the difference. For you, this means step 2 is about creating a daily practice routine. Even if you only have 10 or 20 minutes, use that time to engage with English in a way that feels enjoyable. You could read a news article, watch a short YouTube video, or listen to an English song and focus on the lyrics. The key is consistency. Practice every single day. Think of it like exercise. You won't see results immediately, but over time, you'll build strength and stamina. Another tip is to vary your practice activities. Keep it interesting by switching between listening, reading, speaking, and writing. This variety will engage different parts of your brain and help you become a well-rounded English speaker. By the end of a few months, you'll be surprised at how much your skills have improved simply by making English a part of your daily life. Tackling listening comprehension. For many learners, one of the hardest skills to master is listening comprehension. Daniel was no exception. He moved to New York City, a place where people speak fast, use a lot of slang, and often mumble through their words. In meetings at work, Daniel struggled to keep up with the fast-paced discussions. His colleagues used technical jargon and casual expressions he had never learned in class. It felt like he was drowning in words he couldn't grasp, leaving him frustrated and discouraged. Instead of letting this challenge overwhelm him, Daniel decided to focus on improving his listening skills. He started by listening to English radio stations and podcasts during his commute. The first few weeks were tough. He could only understand a small portion of what was being said. But he didn't give up. He began slowing down the audio, replaying certain parts multiple times, and focusing on catching individual words and phrases. Whenever he encountered an unfamiliar term, he would look it up and try to use it later in conversations. Over time, Daniel's ears adapted to the rhythm and flow of English conversations. He became better at recognizing common expressions and slang, and his brain started processing the language faster. Listening comprehension is a skill that improves with exposure. The more you listen to native speakers, the more natural the language will sound to you. For you, step 3 is to immerse yourself in English. This doesn't mean you have to move to an English-speaking country. It means surrounding yourself with English as much as possible. Start by changing your environment. Listen to English music, watch English TV shows, and switch your phone's language settings to English. The more you surround yourself with the language, the more familiar it will become. If you're struggling with fast conversations, try using tools like YouTube's speed control feature to slow down videos. Apps like Audible or Spotify allow you to control the speed of podcasts and audiobooks. Start slow, and gradually increase the speed as your comprehension improves. Remember, It's okay to miss words or not understand everything right away. Listening is about training your brain to pick up patterns and sounds, and this takes time. Building speaking confidence. Even as Daniel's listening improved, one hurdle still stood in his way: speaking English confidently. He could understand what people were saying, but when it came time to respond, he hesitated. Like many learners, Daniel was terrified of making mistakes. He worried that his coworkers would judge him if he mispronounced a word or used the wrong tense. The fear of embarrassment kept him quiet, and for a while, he avoided speaking English whenever possible. But deep down, Daniel knew that if he wanted to truly master English, he had to face his fear head-on. One day, he decided to attend a local language exchange group. These groups meet regularly, bringing together people from different backgrounds to practice speaking languages with each other. It was intimidating at first. Daniel's heart raced as he introduced himself, and he stumbled over his words. But something surprising happened. Nobody laughed. Everyone there was in the same situation, learning and improving together. The more Daniel attended these meetings, the more confident he became. He realized that making mistakes is an essential part of learning. Each mistake was an opportunity to learn and grow. Over time, Daniel found himself speaking more naturally and with greater ease. His conversations became longer, and he even started cracking jokes in English. Step 4 in improving your English is to speak as much as possible, even if you make mistakes. It's natural to feel nervous, but remember that mistakes are part of the process. The more you practice speaking, the more comfortable you'll become. Look for opportunities to practice, whether it's with friends, colleagues, or through language exchange platforms like Tandem or Hello Talk. These platforms connect you with native speakers who want to learn your language in exchange for helping you with English. Start small. You don't need to give a speech right away. Begin by introducing yourself, talking about your day, or asking simple questions. As you grow more comfortable, challenge yourself with more complex topics. The key is to keep speaking. Each conversation, no matter how short, builds your confidence and fluency. Additionally, try using shadowing as a technique to improve your pronunciation and rhythm. Shadowing involves listening to a native speaker and repeating what they say, mimicking their intonation and pace. This exercise helps train your muscles to produce the sounds of English more naturally. Remember, fluency is not about speaking perfectly. It's about communicating effectively and confidently, even when you make mistakes. Tracking progress. A powerful motivator. One of the biggest challenges when learning a new language is that progress can feel invisible. You practice every day, but sometimes it seems like you're not improving. This is where Daniel hit a wall. After months of effort, he felt stuck. He understood more English, and he could speak more fluently than before, but the daily grind made it hard to see how far he had come. It was frustrating, and at times, Daniel felt like giving up. But instead of quitting, Daniel found a solution. He started tracking his progress. Every month, he recorded himself speaking English. It didn't have to be anything formal. Sometimes he talked about his week, other times he explained a concept from work. At first, these recordings were difficult to watch. He noticed all the mistakes he made, the awkward pauses, and his heavy accent. But he kept going, determined to improve. After a few months, something amazing happened. Daniel began to notice real progress. His sentences flowed more smoothly, his pronunciation improved, and his confidence was clear in the way he spoke. Tracking his progress became a powerful motivator. It allowed him to see tangible results, even when the day-to-day progress felt slow. Step 5 in your English journey is to track your progress. This could mean recording yourself speaking, keeping a journal where you note new words and phrases you've learned, or writing down the number of conversations you've had in English. When you look back at these records over time, you'll see just how much you've improved. This will not only motivate you to keep going but also give you a sense of accomplishment. If you're nervous about recording yourself, start with a journal. Write about the challenges you face, the new vocabulary you've learned, or how you feel about your progress. Then, after a few months, look back and reflect on how far you've come. Sometimes the improvement you're looking for isn't as obvious day to day, but when you have something to measure, it becomes clear. Remember that progress doesn't happen in a straight line. There will be ups and downs, but every small victory counts. Celebrate those wins, whether it's using a new word correctly in conversation or feeling more confident ordering food in English. Tracking your journey helps you appreciate your hard work and keeps you focused on the long-term goal.